First Contact's price. The Helios deep space mission was supposed to be humanity's triumphant first step into interstellar travel. Instead, it became our species' brutal awakening to the reality of cosmic politics. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge of the DSV Helios, Earth's first antimatter-powered vessel, as it prepared to activate its experimental fold drive. After 5 years of continuous acceleration, they were finally ready to attempt faster-than-light travel. Final systems check complete. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station. Fold drive containment fields are stable. We're ready, Captain. Sarah took a deep breath, aware that billions back on Earth were watching this historic moment through the quantum entanglement comm system. Initialize the fold sequence. The ship's AI began the countdown, but at 3, proximity alarms screamed to life. Multiple objects had just appeared from nowhere, massive vessels that dwarfed the Helios. Before anyone could react, space itself seemed to tear apart as energy weapons crisscrossed between the alien ships. Evasive action. Sarah shouted, but the Helios, designed for scientific exploration, was painfully slow to respond. A stray shot from one of the battling vessels clipped their stern, sending the ship into an uncontrolled spin. Antimatter containment failing. Rodriguez's voice carried the edge of panic. We need to eject the drive core. Sarah knew that would strand them light years from home, but the alternative was worse. Do it, she ordered, watching helplessly as their revolutionary propulsion system was jettisoned into space. Seconds later, it detonated, creating a miniature sun that briefly outshone everything else in the vicinity. The explosion caught the attention of the warring aliens. Their battle ceased as they seemed to notice the human vessel for the first time. A transmission cut through their communications, automatically translated by their AI. Unauthorized primitive vessel, you have interfered in a legitimate trade dispute between the Mercantile League and the Free Systems Alliance. Your destruction of significant quantum-grade antimatter stores will be added to your species' debt ledger. Sarah's blood ran cold. These advanced civilizations weren't even at war. This was just a trade dispute to them, and humanity had just been handed its first bill. The next few hours were a blur of one-sided negotiations. The aliens, discovering Earth's location from the Helios's navigation data, demanded immediate payment in rare elements and quantum computational rights. When Sarah tried to explain that humanity didn't have access to such resources, the alien representatives seemed genuinely confused. Your species has achieved basic spaceflight, but hasn't developed quantum mining. One asked. How inefficient. Nevertheless, payment must be made. We will establish a presence in your system to ensure compliance. As Sarah watched the alien ships prepare to jump toward Earth, she realized humanity had just been dragged onto the galactic stage in the worst possible way. But in those moments, watching the casual display of overwhelming technological superiority, something else was born in her, a quiet, burning determination that would soon spread across all of humanity. The aliens had made 3 critical mistakes. First, they'd assumed humanity's relative technological backwardness meant they were simple. Second, they'd failed to recognize that humans had achieved their spaceflight capabilities through ingenuity rather than following the standard development paths of other species. And third, most importantly, they'd threatened Earth while giving humanity a front-row seat to their technology in action. As the Helios limped home on its backup fusion drive, Sarah began composing her report, not just about the incident, but about everything they'd observed of the alien ship's capabilities, weaknesses, and patterns. Humanity was about to get a crash course in advanced technology, whether the aliens intended it or not. What the aliens saw as a simple matter of debt collection was about to become something much more significant. They had no way of knowing that humans, throughout their history, had specialized in turning disadvantages into strengths. They couldn't have known that Earth's nations, faced with this external threat, would unite with unprecedented speed and purpose. Most importantly, they had no idea that humans, when backed into a corner, had a particular talent for changing the rules of the game entirely. As the alien ships vanished into fold space, heading toward Earth to establish their presence, they were completely unaware that they had just initiated a chain of events that would reshape the galaxy's balance of power. Humanity was about to show the cosmos that technological superiority wasn't everything. Sometimes, the most dangerous species were the ones who had learned to survive and thrive against overwhelming odds. The silent response. The alien observation posts appeared in Earth's orbit exactly as promised, a constant reminder of humanity's supposed debt. Massive structures of impossible materials, they hum like artificial stars in the night sky. The Mercantile League called them trade monitoring stations. Humanity called them what they were, orbital prisons. Dr. Yuki Tanaka studied the alien structures through the newest quantum telescope at the Mauna Kea Observatory. After 3 months of continuous observation, she'd noticed something peculiar about their sensor systems. The aliens relied heavily on quantum-based detection methods, expecting advanced civilizations to leave distinct quantum signatures. It was elegant, sophisticated, and completely blind to certain primitive technologies. They're looking for the wrong things, she explained to the hastily assembled Earth Defense Council. It's like having an advanced motion sensor that ignores anything moving below a certain speed. They've optimized their detection systems for quantum-grade technology, leaving gaps in their coverage of more basic approaches. General Santos leaned forward. Can we exploit these gaps? Yuki's smile was subtle but confident. We already are. The aliens haven't noticed that we've been testing our first prototype right under their noses. Project Ghostwalker was born in the underground facilities beneath the Atacama Desert. While the aliens watched Earth's official space program struggle with primitive chemical rockets, humanity's best minds were developing something unprecedented. Ships that were technically inferior by alien standards, but practically invisible to their detection systems. The key wasn't in matching alien technology, but in deliberately avoiding it. The aliens looked for quantum signatures, so humanity developed ships that used carefully shielded fission power. They monitored for antimatter reactions, so Earth's engineers perfected cold fusion. Every system was designed not to be superior, but to be invisible to advanced detection methods. The first test vessel, dubbed Shadow, was barely larger than a fighter jet. Its hull was composed of metamaterials that absorbed or redirected conventional scanning methods. Its engines produced exhaust that dissipated almost immediately, leaving no trace. Most importantly, it carried a payload that would change everything. A quantum sensor package reverse-engineered from the wreckage of the alien weapons that had damaged the Helios. As humanity appeared to struggle under the aliens' economic demands, the Shadow fleet grew. Each ship was handcrafted, assembled in underground facilities across the globe. The aliens, expecting humanity to follow the standard technological development path of other species, never thought to look for advancement in what they considered obsolete directions. Sarah Chen, now serving as Chief Tactical Advisor for the Earth Defense Force, recognized the irony. They expect us to try to catch up to their level of technology, she noted during a classified briefing. They don't realize we're deliberately going sideways instead of up. The breakthrough came when a shadow vessel successfully approached within 100 meters of an alien monitoring station without detection. The ship's quantum sensors recorded terabytes of data about the station's systems, weaknesses, and blind spots. More importantly, it proved that humanity's primitive approach could pierce the most advanced defenses in known space. But Earth's leaders knew they couldn't keep this secret forever. Eventually, the aliens would realize that humanity's apparent technological stagnation was a cover for something far more dangerous. The question wasn't if they would need to act, but when. The decision was made for them when the Mercantile League announced its intention to establish permanent resource extraction facilities on Mars and Luna. The aliens hadn't even bothered to phrase it as a request. To them, it was simply a notification of their plans to take what they believed they were owed. They had no idea they were about to force humanity's hand. In orbital labs and underground bunkers, engineers put the finishing touches on weapons that no alien race would expect. kinetic kill vehicles that were virtually invisible until impact, EMP devices that could disable quantum systems while leaving primitive technology unaffected, and communication jammers that could sever the quantum entanglement links the aliens relied upon. As the alien construction fleet approached Mars, humanity prepared to reveal that they had spent the last year not just developing technology, but developing exactly the right technology to exploit every weakness in their oppressors' defenses. The galaxy was about to learn an important lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous predator isn't the one with the sharpest teeth, but the one that learns to hunt in the shadows. Operation Nightfall. The alien construction fleet emerged from Fold space near Mars' orbit, a magnificent array of vessels that stretched for kilometers. Their quantum drives hummed with enough power to terraform planets, while their automated construction systems could rebuild entire moons. To the casual observer, they appeared unstoppable. Admiral Helena Rivera watched them from the bridge of the EDS Nightshade, Earth's first full-scale stealth battleship. Her vessel, along with 30 others like it, lay in wait, completely invisible to the alien armada's sophisticated sensors. The ships of humanity's ghost fleet were ugly by alien standards. Their hulls were rough and angular, designed to scatter scanning beams rather than please the eye. "All vessels report ready," her tactical officer whispered, though there was no need for stealth in the vacuum of space. Old habits died hard. "Shadow squadrons are in position." Helena nodded, her expression grim. The next few minutes would determine whether humanity's gambit would pay off or if they'd just signed their own extinction warrant. Begin Operation Nightfall. Execute Pattern Sigma. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet sprang into action. The first phase targeted the alien monitoring stations in Earth orbit. Teams of Shadow-class vessels, deliberately built small enough to be dismissed as space debris, activated their magnetic grapples. They latched onto the massive alien structures like technological remors, and then released their payloads, quantum disruption devices that had been specifically engineered to target the aliens' communication systems. The aliens' first warning that something was wrong came when their quantum entanglement networks went dark. The monitoring stations, cut off from their command and control systems, fell silent. By the time the construction fleet realized something was amiss, Phase 2 was already beginning. Humanity's primitive kinetic weapons streaked through space, accelerated to relativistic speeds by electromagnetic launchers that the alien sensors had dismissed as harmless industrial equipment. The alien ship's quantum shields, designed to stop energy weapons and exotic particle beams, proved surprisingly vulnerable to simple tungsten rods moving at appreciable fractions of light speed. Multiple direct hits, the tactical officer reported, unable to keep the satisfaction from his voice. Their point defense systems aren't designed to track non-powered projectiles. They're treating our weapons as natural debris until impact. The alien fleet's response was chaos. Their commanders had never encountered a species that would deliberately use such crude weapons. Their combat doctrine, evolved over millennia of fighting other advanced civilizations, had no protocols for dealing with an enemy that refused to play by the established rules of warfare. But humanity's real surprise came next. As the alien fleet struggled to raise their quantum shields, the Nightshade and her sister ships revealed themselves. They closed to point-blank range, firing weapons that would have been considered obsolete by alien standards: chemical lasers, railguns, and conventional missiles. But these weapons had been modified with the knowledge gained from studying alien technology, refined to exploit specific weaknesses in their defenses. "They're trying to establish a quantum fold field," Helena's science officer reported. "Attempting to retreat." "Not today," Helena responded. "Launch the quantum anchor mines." Another innovation born of humanity's unique approach. Simple devices that use the aliens' own quantum technology against them, creating localized disruptions that made fold space travel impossible. The alien fleet found itself trapped in normal space, forced to fight on humanity's terms. The battle that followed would be studied for centuries to come. The alien ships, their quantum-based weapons struggling to target vessels that barely registered on their sensors, found themselves picked apart by weapons they had considered beneath notice. Humanity's primitive electronic warfare systems, operating on frequencies the aliens had long abandoned, tore through their sophisticated but narrowly focused defenses. When the last alien vessel surrendered, the debris field around Mars told the story of a battle that should have been impossible. Humanity, using technology that the aliens had dismissed as crude, had achieved what no other species had managed in millennia. They had defeated a superior force by refusing to fight on their terms. But victory brought its own challenges. As Helena watched recovery teams securing alien vessels for study, she knew that this was just the beginning. The Mercantile League would not take this defeat lightly, and the galaxy's other powers would soon turn their attention to the species that had achieved the impossible. Humanity had proven they could fight. Now they would need to prove they could survive the political aftermath of their victory. As reports of their triumph spread across the quantum networks they had so recently disrupted, the galaxy's power brokers began to realize that humanity's primitive approach to warfare might represent something far more dangerous: innovation unrestricted by conventional thinking. The age of humanity's isolation was over. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready for what that truly meant. The diplomatic dance, the grand assembly of the Galactic Concordat, had not been convened in full session for over 3 centuries. Yet here they were, thousands of representatives from hundreds of species, gathered to address what many were now calling the human question. The vast chamber on New Geneva Station hummed with tension as Earth's delegation prepared to take the floor. Ambassador Marcus Chen, Sarah Chen's father, chosen specifically for his diplomatic experience and understanding of the new galactic reality, approached the speaker's podium. Behind him stood a carefully chosen team: military advisors, scientists, and most importantly, a group of Earth's finest cynoanthropologists. Understanding alien psychology had become humanity's newest weapon. Esteemed representatives, Marcus began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. We come before you not as conquerors or aggressors, but as victims of aggression who chose to defend ourselves. The Mercantile League's delegation erupted in protests. Their lead representative, a towering crystalline being named Soltech, rose to interrupt. The humans deliberately concealed their military buildup. They'd violated multiple trade protocols and attacked a legitimate debt collection operation. Marcus smiled slightly. This was exactly the opening they'd hoped for. We invite the League to present any treaty or protocol that Earth has signed. We'll wait. The silence that followed was deafening. Of course, there were no treaties. The League had never bothered to formally establish diplomatic relations with what they'd considered a primitive species. Their own arrogance had left them without legal standing. Furthermore, Marcus continued, we have evidence that the League's actions violated the Concordat's own laws regarding first contact with developing civilizations. Evidence we are happy to share with all members of this assembly. The political battlefield shifted as quickly as the physical one had. Various factions within the Concordat began maneuvering, seeing opportunities in this unprecedented situation. The Free Systems Alliance, bitter rivals of the League, were the first to publicly support Earth's position. But humanity had learned from their previous encounters. They knew better than to trust any single faction. Instead, they employed the same principles that had won them their military victory: unconventional thinking and careful exploitation of overlooked possibilities. Over the next few weeks, Earth's delegation introduced proposal after proposal to the Assembly. Each one seemed reasonable on the surface, even beneficial to the established powers. It took time for the other species to realize that humanity was slowly rewriting the rules of galactic politics. They proposed standardized first contact protocols. Reasonable enough, except the specifics would force advanced civilizations to share basic technologies with developing species. They suggested reforms to trade laws that would protect primitive worlds, reforms that would incidentally give Earth significant economic advantages. The humans called it diplomatic judo, using the momentum of stronger opponents against them. The older species, used to centuries of political stasis, found themselves constantly off balance. But Earth's greatest diplomatic weapon was the fear they'd instilled in the galaxy's powers. No one knew what other primitive technologies humanity might have weaponized. Reports spread of human scientists reverse engineering captured alien technology with frightening speed, combining it with Earth's crude approaches to create hybrid systems that defied conventional understanding. Admiral Rivera, now serving as Earth's military attaché to the Concordat, found herself giving frequent technical briefings that were carefully designed to be just detailed enough to worry potential adversaries. The message was clear. Humanity wouldn't start a fight, but they would finish it. The turning point came when Earth proposed the Archaeological Protection Act. On the surface, it was a simple conservation law protecting primitive world's historical sites. Hidden in the technical language was a clause that would give humanity access to the ruins of ancient civilizations, access they intended to use to study long-abandoned technologies that the current powers had overlooked in their rush toward quantum engineering. They're systematically searching for forgotten advantages. Soltech warned the League's council. Every primitive technology we've abandoned over the millennia is a potential weapon in their hands. The League's response was to offer Earth membership in their organization, an offer that would have seemed impossible months earlier. Earth declined politely, then accepted a similar offer from the Free Systems Alliance, but with significant modifications to the standard membership terms. As the negotiations continued, Earth's influence grew. Other young species began looking to humanity as a model, learning from their approach to dealing with the established powers. The galaxy's political landscape was shifting, and the old order was struggling to adapt. Marcus Chen, watching the process unfold, was reminded of something his daughter had said after the Battle of Mars. The galaxy's more afraid of what they don't understand than what they do, and they don't understand us at all. She was right. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their stealth ships or their hybrid weapons. It was their ability to think differently, to see opportunities where others saw only obsolete approaches. The galaxy had expected them to follow the established path of technological and political development. Instead, they were forging their own way. Legacy of Terra. 5 years after humanity's dramatic entrance into galactic politics, the cosmic landscape had changed beyond recognition. The observation posts that once loomed over Earth had been dismantled, replaced by a network of trading stations that attracted ships from across known space. But these weren't the sterile quantum tech structures favored by the older civilizations. They were hybrid installations that embody humanity's unique approach to technology. Captain Sarah Chen, now Fleet Admiral Chen, stood in the observation dome of New Horizons Station, watching vessels from a dozen species dock and depart. Some used conventional quantum drives, others employ humanity's refined primitive technology, and many used combinations of both. The fusion of approaches that humanity had pioneered had sparked a technological renaissance across the galaxy. The latest reports from the Archaeotech Initiative are in, Dr. Yuki Tanaka announced, joining her at the window. The initiative, born from Earth's Archaeological Protection Act, had grown into one of the most significant scientific endeavors in galactic history. We've successfully reverse-engineered the gravitational control systems from the precursor ruins in the Sigma cluster. It's not quantum-based at all. It's purely mechanical, just operating on principles we hadn't considered. Sarah nodded, unsurprised. This had become a pattern. Humanity's willingness to explore abandoned technological paths had repeatedly uncovered powerful techniques that the quantum-focused civilizations had overlooked. The galaxy was beginning to understand that progress wasn't always linear. But the greatest changes weren't technological. They were cultural. The emergence of what scholars were calling the Terra approach had transformed how species interacted. Young civilizations, once pressured to follow established development patterns, now felt empowered to forge their own paths. The rigid hierarchies that had dominated galactic society for millennia were giving way to something more dynamic. The Mercantile League, once the dominant economic power, had been forced to adapt or become obsolete. Their newest trading vessels now incorporated human-inspired stealth systems, a tacit admission that humanity's primitive technology had its merits. The Free Systems Alliance had undergone an even more dramatic transformation, restructuring itself around principles of technological diversity rather than pure advancement. "We have visitors," Yuki noted, gesturing toward an approaching delegation. Soltec, the crystalline being who had once denounced humanity before the Concordat, was leading a group of alien dignitaries. The League representative had become an unexpected ally in recent years, one of the first of his kind to recognize that humanity's influence could not be contained, only adapted to. Admiral Chen, Soltec's crystalline form sparkled as he spoke. "We've come to discuss the proposed expansion of the Hybrid Technology Exchange Program. Several emerging species have petitioned to join." Sarah exchanged a knowing look with Yuki. The exchange program had been one of humanity's most successful initiatives, a framework for sharing technology that encouraged innovation rather than imitation. It had transformed former rivals into partners, creating a network of civilizations that learned from each other's strengths rather than demanding conformity. "They're welcome to join," Sarah replied, "as long as they understand the program's principles. We share knowledge freely, but each species must contribute their own insights. Innovation comes from diversity, not uniformity." As the delegation moved to the conference room, Sarah lingered for a moment at the window. A small vessel caught her eye, a ship using technology that would have been impossible just a few years ago. Its hull incorporated quantum phase materials, but its drive system was purely mechanical. Weapons that combined alien energy principles with human ballistic designs were visible on its surface. It was neither human nor alien in design, but something entirely new. That was humanity's true legacy. They hadn't just defended themselves or gained power. They had shown the galaxy a new way of thinking. The old assumption that progress meant abandoning primitive technology for more advanced systems had been shattered. In its place was growing an understanding that true advancement came from combining different approaches, from being willing to look backward to move forward. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the most primitive solution was the most elegant, that ancient techniques could solve modern problems, and that no species had a monopoly on innovation. Humanity's greatest contribution wasn't their stealth ships or hybrid weapons. It was the idea that every civilization, no matter how young or old, had something valuable to contribute. As Sarah watched another ship dock, this one bearing the marks of a species that had achieved spaceflight just months ago, she smiled. The galaxy had feared that humanity would disrupt the established order. They had been right, but not in the way they'd expected. Earth hadn't conquered or dominated. They had liberated. They had shown that there was no single path to the stars, no right way to develop, no need to abandon one's unique perspective to progress. The cosmos had learned the meaning of fear when humanity arrived, but they had learned something far more important in the years that followed: the meaning of possibility. The future belonged not to the most advanced or the most powerful, but to those who were willing to learn from everyone, to combine the old with the new, to see value in every approach. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy, not the technology they'd developed or the battles they'd won, but the understanding that true strength came from embracing diversity rather than enforcing conformity. As Sarah headed to join the delegation, she knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was changing, growing, evolving in ways no one could have predicted. And humanity, the upstart species that had dared to think differently, was helping to lead the way.